The Boy Who Swam with Piranhas by David Almond. Here's a question. How would you like it if somebody in your house, your Uncle Ernie for instance, decided to turn it into a fish canning factory? How would you like it if there were buckets of pilchards and tubs of mackerel everywhere you looked? What if a shoal of sardines was swimming in the bath? What if your Uncle Ernie kept on making more and more machines for chopping the heads off, cutting the tails off, getting the guts out, machines for cleaning them and boiling them and squashing them into cans? Can you imagine the racket? Can you picture the mess? And just think about the stink. What if your Uncle Ernie's machines grew so big that they took over every room? Your bedroom, for instance, so that you had to sleep in a cupboard. What if your Uncle Ernie said you couldn't go to school anymore, but had to stay at home to help him can the fish? Sounds good? But what if instead of going to school, you had to start work every morning at 6 o'clock on the dot, and you got no holidays, and you never saw your old pals? Would you like that? Would you, heck? Well, neither did Stanley Potts. Stanley Potts, just an ordinary kid living an ordinary life in an ordinary house in an ordinary street. Then bang, life turned balmy. It happened overnight. One day there were Stan, his Uncle Ernie and his Auntie Annie living in a lovely terraced house in Fish Key Lane. Next day, wallop. Pilchards, mackerel, sardines and total balminess. Now, Stan really did love his Uncle Ernie and his Auntie Annie. Ernie was Stan's dad's brother. They'd been wonderful to him ever since Stan's dad died in that awful accident and his mum died of a broken heart. They'd been like a brand new mum and dad. But once the balminess started, it seemed it would never stop, and pretty soon it would all get far too much to bear.
Chapter 2. Ernie welded and hammered and nailed and drilled and screwed. He lifted floors and knocked down walls. He built a network of pipes and tubes and sluices and drains. He connected wires and switches and fuse boards. His machines grew and grew and grew and grew until they were in every corridor and every room. Pipes and cables ran under every floor and through every wall. The house throbbed with the beat of engines, with the snip and snap of guillotines and knives, with the whiz and whir of electric saws, with the gush of sluicing water, with the bubbling of great cauldrons, and with Ernie's excited cries. Work faster, work harder, oh my wonderful machines, oh how I love them, fish, 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 machine, 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 machine. Every morning, trucks brought buckets of fish to the front door. Every evening, trucks picked up crates of tinned fish from the back. Business boomed. Money poured in. Ernie wasn't a struggling ex-shipyard worker now. He was a businessman, an entrepreneur. His empire grew like it was a living thing. Every night, Stan slept in his cupboard, and Ernie and Annie slept under a huge gutting machine. The next morning at 6 o'clock the alarm would ring. Ring-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding. And straight away a hooter would hoot. Nee-naw, 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 nee-naw. And straight away a record would play. Wakey, 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 wakey. And straight away Ernie would yell, Up! Come on! Up! 6 o'clock and time to get started. Get to work. When Annie groaned or Stan moaned, Ernie's response would always be the same. This is for us, for this family. Now come on, it's 6 o'clock and it's time to start. But one morning, Annie said, Hold on, Ernie. What do you mean, hold on, Ernie? I mean, slow down, just for today. Ernie was already in action. He had his gutting gloves on, he held his snipping scissors, and he jangled his keys, and fish swam and danced and slithered through his brain. Ernie, yelled Annie, slow down, just for today. What's so bloomin' special about today? You don't remember, do you?
Remember what?
She took an envelope from under her pillow and waved it at him. Do you not remember? It's Stan's birthday.
Is it? Said Ernie. Oh, aye. Of course it is. Today's Stan's birthday.
He shrugged.
So what?
So let's be nice to him. Let's do birthday things.
Birthday things?
He frowned.
What do you mean, birthday things?
I mean presents and parties and smiles and singing happy birthday and not bothering him with potty pilchards for one thing.
Potty pilchards? I'll have you know that pilchards is our lifeblood, madam. I'll have you know that.
And I'll have you know that if you are not nice to your nephew, your wife will be on strike. Ernie flinched. Now hush, said Annie. She got up and tiptoed to Stan's cupboard. Morning, son, she whispered. Stan grabbed his work clothes. Sorry, he said. Am I late? Should I be up? Is it time to start? But Annie hugged him. Happy birthday, Stan, she said. The lad was astonished. What? He said. It's my birthday. Of course, replied Annie. Didn't you know? Stan pondered. I remember thinking it might be, but no one said anything, so I thought I might be wrong, or that you must have forgotten. Oh, Stan, said Annie, do you really think we'd forget something like that? We remembered all along, didn't we, Ernie? Ernie coughed. He snipped the air with his scissors.
Of course we did,
he said. He tried to grin through the cupboard doorway. Happy birthday, lad. Happy birthday. Happy, 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 happy birthday. Ha, 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 ha. Go on, give him the card. Annie gave Stan the envelope. Stan took out the card. There was a picture of a sailing ship on it and a message inside. Happy birthday to our Stan, the best nephew in the entire world. With lots of love, Uncle Ernie and Auntie Annie. Kiss, 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 kiss. Oh, thank you, cried Stan. Thank you, that's the best card ever. Right, said Ernie. That's quite enough of this. There's fish to be canned. And he turned back to his buckets of fish and his magnificent machines. What a silly, said Annie. Why don't we let him get on with his fish while we have a lovely breakfast? She opened a carrier bag and took out some cans of pop and some chocolate bars and a big bag of sweets. They giggled and tucked in. Every few minutes, Ernie would yell, Where are you? You're late. Stop slacking. Get to work. But Annie would just say, Take no notice. And when they'd finished all of the pop and all of the chocolate and all of the sweet, she said, Now, Stan, you're going to have a treat today. Just you wait there. Chapter 3. Ernie was pressing buttons and flicking switches, pulling levers and twisting knobs. He jerked and swayed and danced and whirled. He chanted his fish chants and sang his fish songs at the top of his voice. Fish, 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 fish. Fish in buckets and fish in bins, chop off their heads and tails and fins, boil and sizzle with tomato sauce and slap them in a tin with a label, of course. Fish, 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 fish. Pots, perfect pilchards, spectacular sardines, magnificent mackerel, elegant eels, haddock and herring and cod and squid. Get them down your neck, best thing you ever did. Fish, 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 fish in buckets and... Annie sighed. Whatever had happened to the nice, easy-going fellow she used to know? She tapped him on the shoulder. No response. She thumped him on the back. No response. She walloped him and yelled in his ear. Ernie! Ernest Potts! He turned to her at last. Aha! About time, he said.
Stan, where are you, lad?
Annie reached down and switched off the nearest machine. Ernie gasped. What on earth was she doing? He reached down to switch it back on when Annie said, Never mind Stan, it's his day off.
Day off? Says who?
Says me, said Annie. It's a new rule. Look, I've written it down. She handed Ernie a slip of paper. Rule 1. Family members get a day off on their birthday. Ernie read it and scratched his head. You had rules in the shipyard, didn't you, Ernie? Asked Annie.
Yes,
Said Ernie.
but.
No buts, said Annie. And he also gets a £10 bonus. She handed him another slip of paper. Rule 1A. Family members get a £10 bonus on their birthday.
But you've just made these rules up,
Ernie exclaimed. Annie shrugged. Of course I have. Are you objecting? She looked Ernie in the eye. He looked Annie in the eye.
Yes,
He said. She handed him another piece of paper. Rule 1B. Don't you dare object, or I will go on strike. Well, Annie said. Ernie grunted. He reached into his pocket. He drew out a £10 note. Give it to Stan and tell him to have a good time, ordered Annie. She raised her finger as if to say, Don't you dare object. Stan, she called. Come here, son. Uncle Ernie has something to tell you. Stan came out of the cupboard. You've got a day off, said Annie. Isn't that right, love?
Aye,
grunted Ernie. And Ernie's got something for you, haven't you, Ernie?
aye,
grunted Ernie again. He held out the £10 note.
Happy birthday, son,
He said.
Have a.
He scratched his head. What were the words he was supposed to say again? A good time? Prompted Annie.
That's it,
Said Ernie.
have a good time, lad.
Where will I have a good time? Asked Stan. Annie opened the front door. Out there, she said. You've been cooped up too long in here. Have a good time out there in the world, son. Annie and Stan looked out through the streets, and they gasped in wonder and surprise. A fairground had come to town. There it was, slap bang in the place where Simpson's shipyard used to be. There was the Ferris wheel turning slowly in the sun, and the pointed top of a helter-skelter, the crackle of dodgems, the wail of music, the clatter of a roller coaster. There was the smell of engine oil and candy floss and hot dogs. A fair, they said together. Wow! Stan gripped his £10 tight, and he kissed his aunt and grinned at his uncle and stepped out into his sunny day of freedom. Annie grabbed a shopping bag. Rule 1C, she said as she walked out. Aunts are allowed time off to buy birthday cakes. Ernie watched the two of them go.
The world's gone balmy,
he said to himself, and then he slammed the door and got back to work.